Video game.
You are an interesting creature. I opened my eyes to see a woman staring down at me with a very sly smirk on her face. I opened my mouth to scream in fright, but a hand quickly covered my mouth. No screaming now. Too early, silly girl. I could only stare up at the woman above me. I still felt weak, not having the strength to move and fight her off. What was going on, and why was she here? Hmm. Why do the boys like you? You're unique, yes, but that can be all that you have going for you. Rage began to consume my core again. This woman, whoever she was making me mad. She must have known as she let another smirk grow onto her face. Ooh, you're feisty. That could be why. Before I could bite her hand in anger, she removed her hand from my lips, standing up and staring down at me from her place next to my bed. I quickly sat up and glared daggers at the intruder. She was very beautiful, but I felt more anger than amazement. Who the hell are you and why are you in my room? The woman began to laugh, making the rage inside me increase. I wanted to punch her, but I waited for her answer. How silly of me. I forgot that we demons are not well known of in your world. You can call me Diana, little human. Diana? Demon? You're a demon? I am, but I'm much more than just an average demon. What do you mean? Silly girl, I'm a succubus. I stared at Diana in shock. A succubus? First incubi and now a succubus? Great, I had now met both genders of sex demons. Diana crossed her arms under her bosom and looked at my body. Well, you are pretty, but you seem very reckless. Too reckless. I moved out and stood from the bed, glaring at Diana. Why are you here? Oh, I just wanted to see who my competition was. Competition? For the boys, of course. They don't belong here, and yet here they remain. I want to know why and remedy this little issue. This girl was seriously pissing me off. Issue? What issue? They want to stay here so they can. Silly, uneducated human. You don't understand the important roles these boys play in the abyssal planes. You keeping them here is practically imprisonment. You have about 10 seconds to leave. Is that a threat? How cute. What are you going to do? Kill me? And if I do?
Maybe.
Maybe.
You may kill her.
You barely have the strength to stand, little human. I can rip the rest of your energy out and knock you into a coma. You'll never be able to wake up again. Touch me and I'll enjoy every little minute of it. I felt my body freeze and heat up to almost painful haze. My mind began to feel fuzzy as Diana stepped to me and caressed my cheek. Now, you're going to listen to everything I say and without any questions. Got it? I nodded. Good. I plan to bring the boys back to the abyssal planes. Why? So that I can take my place as the queen of their realm. They have no reason to be here in this silly little world, so I'm going to make sure they return home. Okay, Pumpkin? I nodded but growled. My rage couldn't be concealed, despite the hold I was under. You evil bitch. Call me evil all you want, dearie. I'm not evil. You're just in my way. I felt Diana lean into my ear and whisper, making me unconsciously shiver in both pleasure and annoyance. Now be a good little human and go to bed. I'll make sure they're gone before you get home tomorrow from school, so I make sure to say goodbye in the morning. I felt my body move on its own to lay in bed and cover itself with my bed sheets. I glared at Diana the entire way down. Diana laughed at my futility. I'll get you. Oh, please do. All of a sudden, her voice deepened and became cold and demonic, sending a violent, scared shiver down my spine. Her red eyes practically illuminated in the darkness of my room as she glared at me. Give me a reason to make your life a living hell. I gritted my teeth, trying to fight back against the hold on me. She couldn't have been that tough. She needed energy to survive, right? I was sure she couldn't have had enough to hold me down forever. Diana then laughed and returned to normal. Oh, and make sure you don't tell the boys I was here. I want my visit to be a surprise. I felt the hold on me disappear, allowing me to sit up and practically growl at Diana in rage. What's stopping me? Tss, tss, tss. Then you must not care about your friends and family as much as you care for the boys. I stopped and stared. What did she mean by that? Was there a threat to my family? Diana smirked at me, knowing the confusion behind my eyes. Let's just say that if you tell the boys about me, I'll make sure that no one will care for you and you'll be alone in this little house until the day you die. I could feel fear creeping into me. Alone? How could she do that? The word demon reverberated in my head, reminding me that I was facing off against something supernatural. A human with a shield versus a devil was one thing. A human on her own versus a demon was another. Have a good night. And with that, Diana sank into the floor through a magic purple pentagram, which disappeared as her head vanished through the floor. I couldn't believe it. I had one problem, and I now had another. Instead of a crazy psycho devil who wanted to kill me and the boys, I had a succubus wanting to ruin my life and take the boys away. Could my life get any worse? No, I wasn't going to let her win. She's not as powerful as she looks.
You never ask the question of, can my life get any worse? Because it obviously will from that point onwards.
Oh, I can imagine. She's not as powerful as she looks. I know it. I had to mentally confirm it. She wasn't going to win. The boys wanted to stay with me. I let a sigh before closing my eyes, affirming my plan of action. No matter what she was going to do, I was going to beat her. Eventually, the morning arrived and the sun screamed at me to get up. Surprisingly, I woke up before my alarm clock once again, which was nice. I stretched out and quickly got dressed, getting ready for school. She expects me to say goodbye to the boys. I will say good morning, and will see them when I come back. No, I am going to say goodbye. I scooped up my bag and headed downstairs to the dining room, seeing the boys already eating a delicious selection of food. The smell made my stomach growl wildly as the sight of food drew me to walk further into the room.
Good morning, miss. Did you sleep well?
Before I could lie, hiding the incident in the back of my mind, Damien furrowed his eyebrows and stopped eating.
He's here.
The boys looked at Damien in confusion while I cursed his ability silently in my mouth.
Damien's ability is absolutely fucking amazing.
I know.
Possibly one of the best one out of all the boys.
Yeah.
Damien, what's up with you? Of course she's here. She kinda owns the house.
Damien looked at me, wanting me to explain for him. However, the threats that Diana gave me last night warned me to keep my mouth shut. What do I say?
Diana.
Okay.
We talk about this.
Diana. There you go. Damien pressed his lips together into a fine line. The other boys looked at me with a raised eyebrow. A girl named Diana came by last night.
Diana, is she important? Did she try to hurt you?
She's a succubus. That single word made the boys stop and stare at me. I looked at each boy, unsure of what was going on through their minds. Should I have avoided it?
So, she has come to try and bring us back. She must really be desperate. Well, what should we do now? Nothing. She'll give up eventually. Will she?
The boys continued to look at me as if I knew the answer to that question. Damn it, Damien. She said that if I told you, she'd make my life a living hell. She can't possibly do that, right? She's not a devil.
No, she isn't. However, she is a very powerful demon. She's a master of mind manipulation. Has been trained in illusion, unlike other demons who use strength to get power. She uses her charisma. Damn it. She has the power to make armies bow to her and obey her every whim. That's why she's so obsessed with us.
What do you mean?
Well, she's sort of family ties to us. She was promised to marry one of us in exchange for more power. She's just some worked up hussy who doesn't know how to close her legs when she's not a real threat.
Oh, really? I feel insulted. The boys and I looked around the room, wondering where the voice came from. I felt a cold sweat run down my back of my neck in fear, remembering what kind of power she had. At last, we saw Diana by the entrance of the kitchen, juggling a single red apple in her hand as she leaned against the archway. The boys quickly surrounded me, glaring at the intruder.
So, you took up a human name as well.
Beautiful name, isn't it? Well, for a human name, anyway.
What the hell do you want?
To bring you back, of course. However, you weren't supposed to know that I was coming. I completely forgot about that little mind-reading ability. My mistake. Diana pushed off the archway and walked towards us, making the boys step closer to me in a protective circle. Diana laughed. My, what has the world come to? A group of demons protecting a human girl? I'll tell you right now, she's not that pretty, and from what I can tell, she's still a virgin. My face grew red in complete anger and embarrassment. How dare she?
We respond to her.
Oh, hell no.
We do not take these threats in this house.
Oh, yeah, no. I stepped up, gently pushing the boys away to be face to face with Diana. I was furious and she was about to feel my wrath. You are in my house. You are an intruder. You have no power here. Oh, really? Do I have to remind you of the power I have, dear? With a snap of her fingers, my mind suddenly locked up and I felt blank. I could see the world around me, but I lost control of my body. The boys quickly reformed around me, with James gripping onto Diana's wrist in anger.
You will leave this instant.
Or what? You'll kill me? I completely dare you to.
Let me do it. I could use the workout. Don't.
The boys looked at Damien while Diana smirked at my blank state. I wanted to fight this hold, but her power held me down.
And why not? She wants us to kill her. If she dies, then a civil war starts in the demon world.
Very good, sweetie.
What happens in the demon world doesn't concern us anymore. We live here now. The demons will come to the human world and hunt us down before attacking each other.
The demons will come to the human world? All because of her?
You sneaky bitch.
With another snap of Diana's fingers, I was released from her hold, almost buckling to my knees. Well, will you change all your minds? I assure you it's for the greater good. I expect the boys to say no. What I heard was complete silence. None of the boys replied to Diana, which made me both nervous and fearful as to why. Diana leaned her head back a bit, surprised for a different reason. No? Well, I see. Was silence truly them saying no to her? I looked around the boys and saw the disobedience in their eyes, giving me my answer. I felt my heart flutter, especially when my eyes landed on James. He kept close to me, glaring daggers into Diana. I could feel that he was completely adamant in his choice to stay. I don't know what, but I was incredibly happy to know he wanted to stay. Diana sighed and pressed a finger to her temple, rubbing it gently. Either all of you are playing a very convincing hard-to-get game, or all of you must be out of your minds. Diana then looked at me, locking her gaze with mine as if to read me. I could tell she wanted me to do something, but the boys would stop her, so the stare was her only available action. After a small moment of silence, Diana licked her lips before breaking the gaze battle and smiling to the boys around me. Very well, I guess I'll take my leave now. What? Her leave? Was she serious? The boys around me straightened up and grew confused looks on their faces as Diana stepped back and away from us with a small bow, flaunting her cleavage. Without another word, a deep purple pentagram appeared under her feet, and Diana's body slowly sank into the floor. As her head vanished into the floor, the pentagram vanished. At once, the boys relaxed and slowly began to return to their spots at the table, each in deep thought.
You'll be back, but she won't kill us. She needs us alive. Whatever. We'll keep saying no. She can't force us to come back. She can't do anything but annoy us. Eventually, she'll give up. That's the hope, anyway.
Hopefully. James walked over to me and gently caressed my cheek, looking at me with a comforting smile.
There's no need to worry. I promise she won't hurt you.
I nodded, feeling that he was telling the truth, or at least a hopeful and comforting thought. James kissed my forehead, however, making me blush and forget what I was thinking about. The sound of collective chuckles and playful snickers whispered throughout the air, making me blush even more, but the sudden growl that erupted from the man above me made the laughter stop. I didn't see James' face, but I could tell that he was glaring at his brothers with his lips on my head. He and I pulled away from each other just as the sound of Naomi's car appeared. I quickly ate my food, waved to the boys, and left, confident that nothing was going to happen. Never, ever say that nothing will happen before the day is over. I avoided talking. Yeah?
The day just began.
Mm-hmm. Obviously.
And the day just began. Saying nothing's gonna happen is like saying that everything will be fine. There's nothing to worry about in the whole day. You're
But
just
no.
cursing yourself. You're just cursing yourself at that point.
Oh, yeah. I avoided talking about the ride back home yesterday, saying that the ride was a one-time thing. I'll be riding with you guys from now on to and from school. The girls seemed very happy. We entered the school, quickly gathered our things from our lockers, and headed to class. There were no events, to our surprise. History wasn't exactly fun, but our teacher was great. At least he would have been great if he was in class that day. Naomi and Suzu took their seats around me, Suzu in front of me, Naomi beside me. Before the class bell rang, class was greeted by the dean. Students, you'll be having a substitute for class today. Everyone meet.
Now, this is a male character.
Miss Diana.
Yeah, this is a male character, by the way.
Diana?
No,
The teacher?
No, Dean.
Fudge.
The Dean's a male character. You know that for future playthroughs now.
Whoops, sorry.
It's fine.
My heart stopped. At the door was the dean with Diana, looking over the students and smirking as her eyes landed on me. She strutted to the teacher's desk, ignoring or welcoming the whispers from the other students, before sitting on the wood and crossing her legs. Thank you, Dean. You can go now. With a wave of Diana's hand, the dean left the classroom, closed the door, and left the area. Diana smiled at us, making my stomach turn. What was she going to do? So, history. Such a silly thing, isn't it? I mean, what do we care about the past? We're in the present. The rest of the class, including Naomi and Suzu, hesitantly nodded in agreement, unsure about this new teacher, but willing to listen to more of what she had to say. The present is so full of wonderful things. While the labors of the past are the reason why we have many things, it is our chance and privilege to utilize what has been given to us. Her charm was almost infectious. The class was practically starting to eat out of her hand. I looked around to see classmates grinning and agreeing with Diana. I pressed my lips together as I listened further. I had no choice. What's even funnier about human beings is that some bits of history we hear is either made up or completely biased to one side. It's like a story you read as a child. You hear about the princess and the prince and they live happily ever after. But what about the family she left behind? What of her friends? The students listened and agreed intently to her words. I could tell that these words were all targeted at me. The original story of The Little Mermaid. A perfect example of biased opinion. Here we have a girl who thinks she can be with this prince, but this prince has to marry a princess. So, what would happen if the mermaid had her way? What makes a mermaid so important that the princess has to suffer the consequences?
Keep quiet.
Alright. I kept my mouth shut.
We keep completely silent in this section because all the words will just be used against you.
Yep. I keep my mouth shut. There was no way I was going to let her get to me. Despite her being the teacher, I was going to ignore her. There was no telling what she could do if I talked back. Diana looked at me, expecting me to speak, but I merely stared at her. A smirk graced her face. A glare graced mine. I didn't need to fight to win. It's still something to think about, however, as we think of the story. It's so easy to believe that the mermaid was a heroine, but what of the poor princess? Why should the princess suffer the antics of the mermaid? The princess didn't do anything wrong to her. More nonsense. I knew this was all subliminal message to make me pity her. My anger didn't allow any leeway to feel pity for her. How long was she planning to drag this out? She wasn't a real teacher. Diana continued to rave about the injustice the princess had suffered through while the mermaid was in the princess' sight. To Diana, it was injustice. To me, it was a fairy tale. The boys chose me. He chose me. She wasn't going to convince them otherwise, and I wasn't going to let her. Diana stretched her arms up, making an obvious sexual noise that made some of the boys in the class shift their seats. I rolled my eyes. Well, then that's enough about fairy tales. After all, the Little Mermaid was fated to lose her prince in the original story anyway. It was for the better, though. The kingdoms, I'm sure, flourished, and the prince and princess lived happily ever after.
Not a singular word shall be said here.
I could tell she was trying to pull me to speak more and more. I knew she was wrong, but I wasn't intimidated enough to fall for her words and to speak up. I decided to just watch and observe for the remainder of the class. Her class became a lecture where no one spoke as she spouted nonsense. Diana then stopped talking and then looked to the clock on the wall, reading it quickly. This class had barely begun. Why was she looking at the time? Diana then leaned against the blackboard and smiled at us. I became worried. You know what? School is important. Everyone, go ahead and head home. Take the week off. The students suddenly began to chant happily or in confusion of the situation. Many thought it was a dream come true. Others knew better. Before anyone could protest, however, Diana pressed a finger to her lips and counted down with her fingers in the air. 3, 2, 1. The speakers of the classroom gently awoke, giving us an announcement we would never believe. You read this one or do I?
This is the intercom. I'm gonna read this.
All right.
Attention students, due to an emergency faculty meeting, we will be closing the school for the remainder of the day and this entire week. Please leave the school quickly and quietly and have a good rest of the week.
She used her powers on them. Damn it. I felt the need to stop her, but how could I stop a demon in the middle of a public area? Diana smiled before gesturing to the door. Have a nice week off. School will resume next week. Many of the students filed out, chatting to each other about new impromptu plans. Suzu was beyond happy, but Naomi was hesitant. Before we could pack up and leave, however, Diana stepped to us. Excuse me, little miss. I'd like you to stay a little while. There's something we need to discuss. As Diana looked to Suzu and Naomi, she snapped her fingers, making my friends tense up. You two can head home. Don't worry about your friend until next week, okay? If you contact her, she won't reply, so don't bother. If she contacts you, ignore her because she's just fine. As if on command, Susan and Naomi left the room. I tried to march after them, but Diana stepped in my path, warning me with her eyes that if I followed, there would be hell to pay. I had lost 2 of my friends, at least for the week. Diana and I were alone, just like she wanted. I slammed my hands on the desk in front of me and glared at Diana. What are you doing and what are you thinking? What? Do I not make a good teacher? I figured you showed little lessons, so I took matters into my own hands. Whatever you're trying to do won't work. You really think so, dear? And what makes you so sure about that? What was making me so sure? Why was I confident? Were the boys worth this? My thoughts began to fill with doubt. All the uncertainties about this whole ordeal began to cloud my mind. If the boys were to ever found out, there'd be hell to pay. Was it worth it? What about Diana? What would she do to me? Would she make my parents forget about me completely? Would she ruin my friends' lives out of spite? In my gut, I felt a stone of confidence try to fight back, but the heaviness of my thoughts began to dissolve that stone little by little. What was going on with me? I looked at up to Diana once again to see her gaze boring into my eyes. She was using her powers on me. This time, I was away from home, so I couldn't escape. Or could I? Did I want to? The way she stared at me made me feel warm and fuzzy inside my chest. I felt like melting. Diana lifted a hand under my chin and ran her thumb over my lips, licking her own. I could feel little shots of energy zapping from under my skin into my chin where she held me. Now, let's have a little taste of that sweet virginal sexual energy. I watched as she leaned in, ready to kiss me and take my energy. Half of my body felt elation at the idea. The other half completely rejected it and didn't even want her to even touch me. James. Suddenly, Diana stopped in her tracks. James? Who is? It then dawned on her. Ah, one of the boys. Why don't you tell me which boy is James? I felt myself non-compliance. The oldest. Diana giggled in reply before letting go of my face and stepping back. Really? The eldest son with you? I nodded out once again. This time it was partly my own decision to reply. Diana let out a sound that mimicked a cat's purr before stepping away from me. All right, then. Well, if it's the eldest son you're infatuated with, you should really rethink your romantic options. Diana chuckled on before kissing my nose, where I felt a shot of energy zap out of my body, almost making me dizzy and recoil. Diana then returned to the desk and sat on the wood, crossing her legs. You can go now. Remember, no class for the rest of the week. How am I supposed to get home? My 2 friends left me here thanks to you. Oh, they were your ride? My apologies. Let me help then. Diana lifted her hand and snapped her fingers. I suddenly felt the floor sink from underneath me, forcing me to look down. A purple pentagram surrounded my feet, pulling me into the ground. Whoa! Before
I
I could.
wouldn't mind that form of. I wouldn't mind that form of transport. Not gonna lie.
That would be fantastic. You would.
I'd be able. I'd be able to wake up 15 minutes before anything, and just get up, get dressed, get ready, and then just transport there 2 or 3 minutes before I need to be there.
Dude, I can imagine the amount of traffic I would just cut off. Like, so much traffic. Like,
No.
screw
Well,
the
you drive.
traffic.
You drive.
I technically do, I just don't have the insurance.
What car? What car do you have?
Mazda CX-5, 2017.
Wow, fairly nice car.
I got very, very lucky, and my second bank gave me a really good loan, so I was like, might as well.
Nice.
I'll
Let's
e-
continue.
Yep. Before I could fight, however, I sank fully into the floor, fading into the darkness and shutting my eyes. As I opened them, I felt my silk sheets around me, soothing my anxiety from the darkness that had previously surrounded me. What the? Why did Diana bring me home? Was this an illusion? Was I being tricked? Something was going on. I sat in bed, looking around me. I was indeed in my room. There was no mistake about that. Why? Diana is too strange. Was this a game? Was this a part of our plan to get the boys back? I was lost and confused more than ever, despite my logical thought trying to piece the puzzle that is Diana together. The more I tried to solve her, the less I understood about the situation I was in. I was interrupted, however, by my door suddenly opening, revealing the boys with Damien's hand on the doorknob.
Miss, what are you doing here? Aren't you supposed to be in school?
I furrowed my eyebrows and stared at Damien, asking him to answer their question through my thoughts.
Diana sent her back here. She invaded the school and sent all the students back home. What is that bitch up to? Seriously, Diana's playing around for no reason. Maybe it's part of her plan.
The boys continued to argue back and forth about Diana, feeling an almost jealous curiosity in me. Damien seemed to be too deep within the talking to notice my thoughts, for he didn't even stop talking alongside his brothers. Why was Diana after them? Why did she want to bring them back? What was so important about the boys that she would travel to the human world to get them? What was going on? I decided enough was enough. I needed answers. Hey! The boys stopped arguing, staring at me in surprise. I held my hands and fists on my lap, mustering the courage to continue to speak despite my abrupt shout. Why is Diana here? Why does she want to bring all of you back? What exactly did you all run from? Why did you run from it?
Miss,
Don't miss me, please. I need to know what is going on. I won't be left in the dark about this. I want to know what I'm facing. The boys looked at each other hesitantly, unsure of what to reply. Finally, Sam pushed Damien towards the bed, making him buckle and land on his knees with his torso over the edge of the mattress.
Damien, do the thing.
The thing? What thing?
Sam, you're not suggesting. Why not? She deserves to know everything, especially if Diana is targeting her. Sam's right. I guess we have no choice then.
I was getting confused. What was Damien about to do? Damien stood before climbing onto the bed with me, sitting across from me on his knees.
We're going to show you everything. You have to trust me, okay? The minute you stop trusting me, the vision will stop.
Vision?
Please, just trust him.
I looked at James, unsure of what's going on, but I nodded. If this was the only way to learn, then this was my chance to know. Damien gently placed his hands on each side of my head, gently pressing his thumb into the skin above my eyebrows. I could only stare at Damien, and his eyes began to glow gold, and energy began to be pulled out of me and forced into my head. Within seconds, my vision went blank once again. I was unsure of what Damien was doing, but soon shapes and textures slowly began to appear around me. I found myself sitting on the stone floor in the middle of what looked like a fantasy throne room. Where am I? I looked down at myself only to see my body as translucent as a ghost. Whoa! I jumped up and inspected my hands in a sudden panic. I was see-through. Why? What was going on?
How dare they try to negotiate with me? Do they know whom they speak to?
I gasped and ran behind a nearby pillar away from the voice. The sound of his anger and words frightened every bone in my body, turning me into a frightened child.
My lord, please calm down. Calm? You're merely testing my resolve. I have more than half a mind to send my greatest armies to take what should be mine. They are mere insects in the way of my kingdom's expansion. They merely ask you for a marriage joining. So I am to bow to them and share my land that I have so rightfully conquered?
I peeked from behind the pillar to see a large demon, covered in royal clothes, but buff enough to be a military commander. His rage practically emanated from his body as he growled at his servant.
They are willing to give you their land to you, sire. All they ask is one of your sons to marry their daughter, whom I might add is as beautiful as can be. This is ridiculous. To suggest that I need approval to take their land is beyond insanity. What makes them think I care about their precious daughter? Did I mention that she is the prodigy of our kind, sire? A prodigy? Yes, my lord. This succubus is a master of her skills in magic and mind manipulation. She is said to sway armies with the snap of her fingers despite being as young as she is. Impossible. If only it were, sire. This succubus is dangerous, but would be a great asset to have should we agree to this arrangement. The only reason she cannot faze you, my lord, is because you are the strongest demon in the plains. Is this supposed to change my mind? Yes, my lord. You're doing a terrible job at convincing me. My apologies, sire.
I was lost. I could tell that they were talking about Diana, but why?
Father?
I quickly turned my head to see another demon, who looked like a mere child, staring at the demon commander on the throne. Father?
Ah, Raestro, have you finished your training? Yes, father. Then what do you want? I want to be with my brothers for the rest of the day, father.
The demon commander walked up to the young demon and gripped his hair, picking him up off the ground and forcing him to look up at the snarl. The young demon, however, looked unfazed.
Arrogance. Why should I allow you to be with them? I should kill you for your lack of respect to me. Because I want to be with them, father.
I could only stare as the young demon faced his father. Despite the massive difference between them, this young demon seemed weaker and easy to kill versus the demon commander. Why would this man kill his son, though? Was this commander that ruthless? However, I wasn't expecting him to laugh and release the young demon.
Good, assertive. Even in the face of danger, that is why you are my favorite son.
I could only stare wide-eyed as the commander placed his hand on the demon's shoulder.
Very well, go. Tomorrow you will show me your training.
The little demon grinned widely before running off.
I have a thought. Yes, my lord? How old is this daughter? As old as your fifth, sire. Do you believe this proposal is worth it? Yes, sire. Tell those insects they are safe for now. I will consider their offer. Sire, are you certain? Did I stutter? Now go.
The demon's servant quickly ran off, but as soon as he passed the pillar I was hiding behind, he along with the commander vanished into thin air. What the? What happened? I didn't get the time to try to figure out that out before a demon, who looked around my age, walked into the room reading a book. Is that...
Maestro, your nose is stuck in these books. Will you not lift your head up once in a while?
Huh, that voice. I circled around the pillar to see a second demon, leaning against another pillow and smirking at Rystro.
Aren't you supposed to be with your mother practicing harpsichord? I am, but I have a feeling you are in danger. In danger? What are you? Attack!
All of a sudden, 3 shadows zipped through the room and slammed into Rystro, forcing him to fall to the ground and drop his book. As the sight cleared for me, there were 3 other demons in a dog pile with Rystro at the bottom.
Get off. No, you haven't had a break in months from those stupid books. It's time for punishment. Death by brotherhood. No more reading. I told you were in danger.
I suddenly knew who these demons were. It's the boys. Even in the demon world, their brotherly connection was astounding. They were merely younger versions of themselves. One of the demons, who I assumed was Matthew, grabbed the book from the floor and opened it, reading it mockingly.
How can you read this, Rystro? It's all about war and strategy. It's boring. I have to, Zekiru. Get off. There's only one thing you need to know about strategy. Kill them all, take no prisoners. You sound just like father.
I couldn't help but giggle. It was cute seeing them acting childish with each other. Eventually, James managed to push his brothers off him and stand, brushing himself off.
You all are reckless. At least we have fun. It's true you haven't been with us in weeks. Don't you think it's time for a break? I'm sure father won't mind. But I have to... I know you want to, Rystro. Damn it, What's going on here?
I shot my head to the voice to see the commander, aged a little, staring at the boys with arms crossed across his chest. Damien quickly dashed and hid behind Sam, peeking over his shoulder to see the large commander.
Nothing is going on. We just passed by each other. Then why does your brother have your book? I was showing him what I was learning, father. Return to your studies, Rystro. Rest if you get out of my sight. Do not disturb your brother again.
I could only stare as James gently took his book and, without looking at his brothers, returned to reading. The commander walked past the remaining brothers, growling at Sam and Damien before leaving the room. What was up with that?
Don't worry. We'll find a way to get him back. I don't know. He's on a very tight leash. Isru, you're quiet. What did you hear? He's going to negotiate. He's going to a negotiation meeting. He's going to arrange a marriage. A marriage for who? It must be for one of us. He hasn't decided who will marry her. It's a girl from a kingdom he wants to take over. But that's uncharacteristic of him. He'd usually just attack it with an army. Whatever the case is, one of us is getting married. I hope it isn't me. What about Rystro? He's the eldest. It would make sense, but having a succubus marry one of us means that she'll practically get married to all of us. Well, what should we do?
Before the conversation would continue, the boys vanished into thin air, fading into different colored mists. They were replaced by an older Damien and Matthew, sitting with each other in the middle of the throne room.
Do you think we should? I really don't want to. I want to as well. Still, it'll be hard to convince Rystro since he's the one who's about to be married, and he's the favorite. We don't know that, Takeru. Maybe she's set to marry you. No way, I don't want to get married. I don't think you'll have a problem with that baby face of yours.
I looked over to see Sam join the duo, crossing his arms and raising an eyebrow at his brothers.
What are you two talking about? We got into contact with the human world again. Common is rule, you give humans too much attention. No, wait, you gotta listen. They apparently have stores and books and schools and stuff. So what? It's full of humans who piss on each other for no reason. They're no better than devil's spawn. The one we were talking to wasn't like that. How do you know, Zakaru? Because I do. What's going on here? They want to go to the human world. The human world? Raestro, think about it. You won't have to marry that girl and be the heir anymore. You could be with us and we can make lives for ourselves with a new world. Now you're talking nonsense. I vote that we do it. Oh, not you too. Think about it. This may be our chance to finally get away from this political nonsense we're stuck in. We may be nobles, but we're still our own beings. Restro is in. What is rule? So how do we get there? Are you kidding? You don't even know how we'd get there. It's a simple spell, should work, but it would require someone from the human world to help us get there. We can ask him. He'd definitely help us. I'm not so sure about. Maestro, aren't you tired of pleasing Father all the time? I am, but if you stay, you'll be married off and become the ruler of Father's kingdom. You'll have no time for yourself with us. You'll be constantly at war with other realms for power. You'll most likely turn into the spitting image of Father. What he's saying is, get your head out of your ass and let's go. If you don't say yes, I'll drag your princey ass with us. I don't care what that bastard of a father wants. Come on, Raestro. All right, let's do this. What's the plan?
I couldn't believe what was happening. I was seeing the history of their lives before my eyes. They were nobles and James was the heir to the kingdom the commander ruled. Even more so, he was going to be married to Diana. They sacrificed everything to leave and be together. They'd rather be free than remain in their noble roles. I started to feel a little jealous. They were able to leave while I was still expected to be what my father wanted to be. How they were able to leave was uncertain still, but I knew I would learn in time. I closed my eyes and mentally asked Damien to end the vision. As soon as I asked, the world around me slowly vanished, and I was brought back to the bedroom where I sat with my head nestled in Damien's hands. My vision began to clear, letting me fully see the boys around me, all with concerned faces.
So now you know exactly who we are. Is there an
Diane,
option on OBS? Is there an option on OBS to pause a recording? Because I need to
I
do
can
something really
pause.
quick.
Yeah, let me see. I'll do that now. 3, 2, 1.
Your game.
Alright. Diana is the girl you
So
arranged to marry?
not anymore. Once we left, the arrangement was broken. With no sons to marry off, our dad couldn't go through with the marriage deal. If Diana's here for us, I mean she's trying to save her kingdom from being attacked. That's not true. She wants to rule our kingdom. Having one of us will give her the right to our kingdom as much as we'd have right over hers. So she's a gold digger. Well, with a kingdom like ours, what succubus wouldn't want to marry us for it?
It all made sense. She wanted them so that she could finally take over an opposing kingdom. She knew that, despite her powers, she wouldn't be able to fight against her father, so she had to find another way in. That manipulative. Before I could continue, I felt my head suddenly get heavy and dizzy. I gripped my head, mewling under my breath. What the?
I took too much, I'm sorry. Rest now. There's no need to do anything more today.
The boy suddenly rushed over and helped me lay back down as my vision was painted in white polka dots. I needed sleep badly. Instantly, I closed my eyes and let darkness consume me. After what seemed like hours, I finally woke up, slightly refreshed. My body knew that if I slept any longer, I'd be up all night, which was not the part of the plan of the day. I rubbed my eyes and sat up, letting a soft groan escape my lips. In response, something beside my bed shuffled, causing me to look over. I didn't know what I was expecting. Beside me, sitting in a chair beside the bed, was James, rousing himself up to see me awake. I smiled at him, seeing his slightly ruffled hair and tired eyes.
Oh, you're awake. Good. How do you feel? This one is up to you.
Alrighty. I'll just say better, because
Better.
that's what I really feel. James nodded before he gently reached over and ran his hand through my hair, examining my face with soft sadness. I'm sorry this is all happening to
Uh,
you. Oh,
uh,
fudge.
my line. Every single time we record one of these,
I know.
for both of us, we both end up doing lines for characters we shouldn't.
I know.
I'm sorry this is all happening to you. I really wish there was something I could do to fix all of this.
James, it's not your fault.
No. If we never came, then you'd never be targeted by either Malex or Diana.
I quickly reached over and put my finger on his lips, stopping him from going any further. I didn't want to hear any more. James, it's okay. I wanted to help you out. I offered to let you all stay. Nothing is your fault. I gently moved my hand and cupped James' cheek, staring at him with concern. I didn't want him to hold guilt in his mind about his whole ordeal. Diana was desperate, and she would hunt anyone down for them. It wasn't his fault that she was desperate enough to hunt them down. However, I was curious. So, James, you're a demon prince? James then twirled a strand of my hair around his fingers, staring at it.
Yes, I am. I was.
Was?
I was a demon prince when I lived in the Abyssal Plains. I didn't enjoy a single minute of being there. The only moments I truly enjoyed were when I was with my brothers. Thus I left to come here.
What was it like while you were there?
Well, other than the consistent studying and training to be a resilient leader, an all-around ruthless lord, it was bland. I never truly knew what freedom was until I was excused from my sessions.
James looked to me with a thoughtful look on his face. I stared back, wondering what was going through his mind. He then smiled before taking off his glasses and placing them on me. I was surprised, but instead of seeing him, I saw dark gold and purple magic swirl in front of my eyes through the glass. The vision cleared and I suddenly was back in the demon castle. I looked around, feeling stuck in place, but my eyes instantly landed on a demon version of James. He was sitting on the throne of the main hall, reading over a book with an intense expression. It was kind of cute to see, but he read in silence. Do I read this or do you?
This is a female, I believe, yes.
Okay. You'll wear out your eyes if you read too much. James looked up from his book to see a figure materialize in front of him. It was an older woman with a black cloak and aged horns. I could see she had power, though, and it gave me shivers to look at her.
Sorona, what are you doing here? Shouldn't you be at the Lord gathering with my father?
I should, yes, but I had to stop by and see the Demon Lord's favorite son before I head in.
I am honored. However, I must apologize and return to my reading.
Of course, of course. Wouldn't want to make the Demon Lord angry now, would you? I could see James' eyes twitch a bit at her comment. However, James simply bowed his head and went back to his book in silence. Serona shook her head and let out a chuckle. What will you do when you become the Demon Lord? It's such a big responsibility. James looked up once again, confused at the question. Serona simply smiled and began to walk away. Think about that. James and I watched her walk away, both of us with the same surprise and confusion expression. I looked back to James to see him press his lips together and stare at the floor. Anyone could tell that he was lost, unsure of how to even answer that to himself. It was strange to see him in a form of weakness, jostled at a simple question that was more than it appeared. James closed his eyes and closed the book on his lap. It was then that I noticed the tired circles around his eyes. He had been working himself to the bone with his training and reading. When was the last time he slept? I could feel James in the real world gently slide the glasses from my face and place them back on his. It took me a second to recenter my vision, but then I looked at James, who smiled at me.
It was then that I decided to find my brothers. Little did I know that they were wanting to come on a trip that would make me leave my entire realm to be in a new world.
I stared up at him, surprised, before bringing my hand gently back onto his cheek and running a thumb softly under his eye. He looked healthier and a lot less tired than when I saw him in that vision. Something about that made me happy. James gently leaned into my hand, closing his eyes and relaxing. He then slightly smiled, trying to joke.
So, how does it feel to hold the affection of an ex-demon prince?
I stared, feeling my cheeks glow red in surprise and embarrassment, but I smiled and giggled slightly, running my thumb back and forth along his cheek gently. I have to say, I'm flattered to think that you ran away from that life. James frowned, making me stop moving my thumb as he stared at me.
I can promise you, that was no life to live.
But it was your home.
A home is where you can be yourself, not tied to your duty.
James gently ran his hand along my cheek, gingerly outlining the edge of my eye and ear with his thumb.
Home is where all I have to do is care about the ones close to me.
James. James smiled and gently leaned in, kissing my forehead. I felt a small shiver run down my spine from his kiss, noting that he sneakingly took some energy from me in that little kiss.
Now, you need to rest. You're not fully recovered. You might as well rest until dinner is ready.
James smiled and gently pressed me back down onto the bed, leaning his forehead on mine. Steal a kiss, right?
Yes.
Hell yeah.
Kiss the guy.
Out of playful fun, I lifted my head and gently kissed James, softly laying a hand on his cheek to keep his face close. James stared at me in surprise before kissing me back, caressing my cheek, slightly melting at the touch of our lips. A soft sigh escaped from his lips before he slowly pulled away with a smile. He gently licked his lips, making me go red in the face at the simple gesture. He let out a satisfied hum before nuzzling my forehead.
Rest.
And with that, he stood up and left the room, leaving me to rest as per his request. I smiled to myself before relaxing into the mattress.
What I said earlier as well about this being one of the this being a few episodes longer. I just looked at the actual route, all the options we've got left, and it's actually fairly short.
Yeah.
I forgot this isn't Seduce Me too, which is extremely long.
Yeah, my route was extremely short.
You're on to some of the final scenes right now.
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's now continue.
Let's go. I suddenly tensed up. I felt majorly uneasy. Something wasn't right. I felt it in my core. She must be here. The thought of her in the house infuriated me beyond belief. I had to make sure she was not there. Not here. I rolled out of bed and quickly left my room, wandering the halls and listening closely. She was a demon, but I was listening very intently. There was no way she would have been able to sneak up on me. I know you're here. Where are you? I could feel myself growl. It wasn't a matter of fear that she'd take away the boys anymore. Her very existence had lit a fire of rage within my gut, which only grew as each day went by. This feud was getting on my nerves, and I knew it would not end well for one of us. I wasn't going to lose to that demon bitch.
Diana, what are you doing here?
My heart stopped. Diana was with James. My mind flew into slow motion, playing fake images of Diana trying to seduce James in my head to further fan the angry flame inside me. I instinctively followed James' voice and approached the study. The door was open just a crack, wide enough to peek in without being noticed. I peeked inside to see James by the bookshelf with Diana in one of the armchairs, looking to him. Silly man, why do you think I'm here?
To be fairly honest, I don't really care.
Ah, I'm hurt, wounded truly. You don't care that I came to this pathetic little world just for you?
I'm sorry. Let me make this clear. You are not welcome here, so I suggest leaving.
Is that any way to speak to your fiancé? Not yet. Is that any way to speak to your fiancé? Diana wasn't his fiancée anymore. Why was she speaking as if the arrangement was still going on?
Our arrangement was broken when I left the Abyssal Plains. You are no longer my fiancé.
What a stubborn man, just like your father. Well, you should know. He decreed that you should return home and you'll maintain your status and keep your birthright. James will be the heir again? Why?
I don't want it.
You don't want it? You'd give up the...
I said I don't want the damn birthright. What birthright? It's imprisonment, a life sentence. Am I not allowed to be selfish for once in my lifetime?
It's your reason for birth. Do you not realize what you have? I could feel James' anger emanating from the crack in the door, fighting with Diana's tension. Diana and James were both matched, staring at each other down.
I know exactly what I had. That's all behind me. I'm done with that. To hell with my birthright.
To hell with your birthright. You truly think you can decide that? You are the first son of the Demon Lord. You are the heir to the throne, and I am your bride, the next Demon Queen. Why was Diana so desperate? It irked me to see how desperate she was to get James to return. Maestro, you... All of a sudden, James ran at Diana and pinned her to the floor by the neck. I felt the need to jump in, but I knew James wasn't trying to do anything romantic. He wouldn't. His voice sent shivers down my spine as he continued to speak with his hand at her throat.
And what gives you the right to use my name like that? Only demons of the same blood are permitted to use each other's true names.
When our families arranged our marriage, I was given permission to use your name as mine. That's what you are, James. You are my husband, and I am your queen. You are my maestro, and I am your Izar. I could hear James growling in anger, like he was ready to bite Diana's head off like a wolf with a small deer. I felt myself growl quietly to myself as well. However, James pushed himself off the floor and returned to the opposite side of the room, away from the prone Diana.
I do not belong to you. I belong to Pop. Jesus Christ!
I knew this name would come in handy. The human girl, you must be joking. A human like her can't possibly provide you with what you need. She's a human. You're a demon. I felt the urge to storm in and shut her mouth. It would give away my position, but I was growing extremely tired of Diana.
Barge in, rush!
Rush B.
Rush B, rush B.
I decided to be assertive and quickly stepped into the room, throwing the door to the study wide open. Diana and James looked at me in surprise as I glared daggers at Diana. Get out. Well, little human, you're awfully nosy in business that doesn't concern you. It does concern me, honey.
Yes, it does. It concerns her.
Does it? I don't think a human would understand the importance of this affair. You're asking him to leave to be someone else he doesn't want to be. That's not going to happen. Oh, and what makes you so sure about that? I love him.
Yes.
Diana stared in shock at my exclamation. Was it not what she expected? I didn't care what she expected. I wasn't going to lose the man I had grown to love. You love him? Yes, I love him. Diana's lips twitched, the edges curling into an amused smirk as she stared at me. So what? A human's love isn't enough to understand this situation. A demon could never reciprocate human feeling. To both our surprise, however, James stepped forward and put an arm around me, pulling me close to his body.
I love her.
I saw the confidence Diana shattered in her eyes as she stared at James at his words. I could see the struggle in her face to try to find some weakness in James. In me. Anything. A demon love a human? Impossible. It's only impossible to you because you don't have... Oh, fuck.
This is me. This is me.
Damn it.
It's only impossible for you because you don't have the capability to love. This woman has given me so much to shelter me and my brothers. and has given me her heart to cherish. I'd rather care for this woman for the rest of my days than spend an eternity at the demon throne, especially if the queen is you.
Diana took a step back, physically feeling the sting of James' words in her chest. She had lost. She could see it in her eyes. Diana's eyes grew dull as she glared at me and James. It seemed almost uncharacteristic of her, yet it was something I wasn't surprised to see come from her face. Very, very well. Fine. Vale.
It's that's pronounced valet.
Valet. I didn't know what the hell that was, so I just said Vale.
It's a valet.
Valet.
It's pronounced valet. I said it as veil, but then when looking at when actually listening to the voice acting of it, it's a valet.
Okay, and with that, Diana faded into the ground into a purple pentagram, crossing her arms and almost looking upset. James and I were left alone, left in the silence of the room. I finally let out the air that I was unconsciously holding in my chest, relaxing from the ordeal. James stepped to me and held me gently, surprising me.
You okay?
I nodded in response, unable to speak so immediately after being surprised. James let out a sigh, relaxing in the embrace. I gently placed my hands around him, returning the embrace slightly. I could hear James' heartbeat. He held me close in his arms and I felt safe beyond words.
I wasn't lying, you know.
I looked up at James, wondering what he meant by what he said. James smiled down at me, moving a strand of my hair from my face to look down at me.
Another fucking one of the most beautiful songs from this whole soundtrack.
I can hear it.
Yeah, were possibly one of the better songs on soundtrack. Hold on a minute. Could you pause recording real quick?
Alrighty.
Video games. There we go. I love you. I love every single fiber of you. Your mind, your body, your soul. You're quite possibly the most interesting woman I've ever met. You always find your way into my mind. You.
I stared wide-eyed, blushing like a maniac. Was this real? No way. This couldn't be real. Was James confessing to me? Confessing his love? For me? James gently smiled and caressed my cheek. The warmth of his hand invited me to nuzzle into it, and I closed my eyes. This wasn't a dream. My heart was pounding to the point where I was sure James could hear it. James gently leaned in, closing his eyes. He stopped, however, remaining just a mere torturous inch away from my lips. He wanted me to show my feelings for him. He had left himself open for me to kiss him or to leave him empty. The power I had was unbelievable.
You know the choice.
Mm-hmm. I loved him, and I wanted to give him exactly what he wanted. I gently leaned in, letting my lips finally touch his gingerly. James let out an almost pleasured purr against my lips before wrapping both his arms around my waist, pulling me closer to him. I moved my arms up and around his neck, feeling the kiss between us deepen into a heated height. My chest was pounding, making me feel and see fireworks in my mind. James was everything I desired. He was the man I wanted, demon or not. It was also supernatural to fall in love with someone so quickly. Maybe it was the sense magic I was thrown into. Maybe it was Cupid playing with my heart. Either way, I found myself melting at the thought of him being with me. I found myself combing my fingers through James' hair, making the man holding me softly tremble at my touch. He gently nibbled on my lower lip, asking me to deepen the kiss between us even further. I easily teased him before opening my mouth slightly for him. His tongue gently danced with mine as one of his hands slid up my back and cradled my head. He gently leaned my body back, making me cling to him as the heat of our kiss rose higher and higher. Gently, though, James slowed the kiss down and pulled away, staring down at me. His eyes burned for me, wanting me to melt and buckle in his arms. I could feel myself melt already. James opened his mouth to speak, but as a very small blush ran along his cheeks, he was reduced to shy silence. I stared as he tried to find the words to say in my eyes. I knew exactly what he wanted. He didn't need energy, though, right? Are you?
No, I just.
I stared wide-eyed, feeling a blush on my cheeks grow. He didn't say anything more, but I knew what words would have followed if he continued. He wanted me. I was stunned. Was I that appealing to him? Was his passion really that deep for me? James gently lifted his head and kissed my forehead, losing the blush and finally being able to speak.
If you don't want to, we don't have to.
I could feel my mind go numb and purr at the idea. A moment with an incubus. He was a demon of sex, the purest form of lust and desire. My world would rock and I would enjoy every second of it. At the same time, I was indeed inexperienced. Diana wasn't wrong when she claimed me to be innocent. Did I want to give that innocence to him, especially this early? I found myself forgetting the words yes and no. What could I say to him? I knew then what I wanted, but how to say it without breaking the moment.
Uh, you should know the correct option here.
I'm reading the guide and it's okay either way.
I always choose one of the options anyway, though.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, eeny, meeny, miny,
I
moe,
always choose the game. I always choose the game's name because why not?
in Spy's voice, seduce me. I couldn't believe the two words that came out of my mouth. It made the most sense to tell him yes. I needed him. I wanted him. Those two words must have made something in him finally break. James quickly resumed the kiss with me, to which I eagerly kissed back and pulled him closer to my body. The heat inside of my chest was craving his touch, and I needed to deny any space between us. James lowered a hand and brought one of my legs around his waist as he lowered his other hand to my waist. Without breaking the kiss, I gripped to his shoulders and jumped off my feet, wrapping both of my legs around him and making him hold me up. His touch kept raising my need for him higher and higher, bringing my mind to the desire that was buried in the back of my mind. James held me close, kissing me deep and making me moan against his lips. I could feel our bodies sink into the ground, noticing a gentle gold glow penetrate through my closed eyelids. Before I could open my eyes, however, I felt our bodies fall onto a familiar feeling bed with James landing on top of me. I stared up at James as he pulled his face slowly away from mine. His eyes were almost glowing in the dark room, piercing into my soul and making me shiver in anticipation. He effortlessly removed his gray sweater and red tie, leaving him in his tightly fitted white button-up over me. I could practically feel the heat of his skin through the thin fabric. However, as he held me, I could slightly feel the shiver of his hands. What, he was nervous? Was I his first? He wasn't going to show it. He wanted me to enjoy this moment, but I was afraid of screwing up. His shivering hands showed me his emotions perfectly. I gently reached up and brought his head down, kissing him once again. I wanted him to not worry. The pleasure between us would be heavenly and we'd go through it together. I closed my eyes and gave myself to James. My body, my mind, my soul, it all belonged to him as he held me. His body, his mind, his soul, it all belonged to me as I gave into his embrace. His kisses and fingers over my skin would forever engrave themselves into my memory as our passion rose through incredible heights. Our breaths and our moans to each other equally sounded and echoed like a blissful chant we never wished to end. We kept moving, loving, feeling every inch of our bodies until we had had enough and I was enveloped in his embrace. Skin to skin, heartbeats matching, we held each other in the glow of the aftermath. I nuzzled my head under James' chin as he held me close.
You almost did that.
I know.
I love you so much.
I love you too. Just to hear those words come from James' mouth made my heart flutter. To hear me answer made my soul warm in glee. I could feel both of us sink into a peaceful sleep together. It was the best sleep I've ever have had in days, and I was happy. I had love and I had my happiness. Life was simply perfect. When I opened my eyes, I found myself staring into James' bare chest. I blushed but looked up to see James still sleeping. His sleeping face made me giggle softly, but the reality of the situation made my heart flutter. I couldn't believe it. I was lying next to a man I had grown to love with all my heart. His warm embrace made me feel safe. As the tender moment we just shared replayed in my head, I couldn't help but smile and snuggle into his chest further. Unconsciously, he held me tighter to his body, giving me more of his warmth. I didn't want to move, but then my core suddenly tightened and made me sit up without waking the man next to me. I felt my legs move and bring me to my balcony window, when I opened the glass and stepped out onto the patio. I stared wide-eyed at Diana, who sat cross-legged onto the railing of my balcony with her glowing red eyes stare upon me. I opened my mouth to object, but Diana stopped me. Before you get all huffy, I didn't come here to take your precious man away. By the way, how was it exactly? Demons are the best lovers after all. I glared. What do you want, Diana? Well, I just wanted to see how you truly feel, without him around to influence you. What are you talking about? I'm giving you an opportunity to come clean about these feelings of yours and to give you your salvation. What was Diana up to? This was beyond crazy. Nothing she had done made sense. Why was I still alive at this rate? What's keeping you from just killing me and taking them? You're not worthy of my time. Not worth of your time. What are you, afraid something might happen? At all once, I felt my body being lifted into the air and moved past the railings, leaving me with nothing but the ground below me to threaten me with a collision death. Oh, trust me, dear, I'm not afraid to kill you. I can drop you right now and leave your body to rot until the morning where the boys would find you. I wanted to speak, but the thought of her letting go and letting me fall to my death scared my voice into silence. Diana then chuckled and wheeled my body back to the balcony, setting me down gently. Alas, if I kill you, then the boys would never come with me willingly back to the demon world. Then I have to chase them all around the world and kill them and drag them back to... But then their father wouldn't be happy and blah blah blah. Too much work. Diana seemed very business-oriented, as if the boys were cargo more than men. It irked me, but then she smiled. I'm giving you one chance to denounce your love for that demon in your bed and let me take him and the other boys back to the demon world. And why, may I ask, would I do that? There are so many reasons why, actually. There's a reason why that he's a demon, you're a human, so that you two can never truly have a happily ever after. There's a reason that demons truly do not know how to love, despite what he may proclaim. The list goes on and on. The point is, if you give me the boys, I will promise you eternal happiness. Eternal happiness? That's right. I have the power to give you anything you desire. Power, men, women, money, fame, name it and it's yours. A demon never goes back on their word, and I have the power to obtain anything you wish. Our deal is our contract. I could only stare in shock. This was a dream. It had to be. Diana smiled an almost genuine smile at me, shaking at me to the reality of the situation. She would never smile like that. Don't you wish to be free of your destiny? Your father constantly berating you to become the next CEO of your grandfather's company? How did you... I was almost floored in surprise. How did Diana know all of this? She was a succubus, yes, but how could she know anything beyond sexual desire? She wasn't Damien. Diana chuckled and leaned back against her arms. Just because I play with hearts and sex doesn't mean I don't know my way around the human world. You happen to be an open book of information. But I digress. I can give you your freedom with ease. It would be like you were always meant to have it. All I ask is you hand over the boys. What do you say? Was I seriously being given this choice? The man I loved for anything I wanted? A demon like Diana was powerful enough, yes. But did I even want to consider giving up the man I loved?
No,
No. She must
no.
have been crazier than I thought. I glared. Absolutely not. Diana sighed and stood up on the railing. What I wasn't expecting her was lifting me in the air. I tried to scream, but my voice suddenly became locked in silence. What was Diana doing? Diana made me float over to her, and she smirked as we touched noses. Well, if I can't return home with the boys, I might as well return home with the power to fight back. Diana leaned in and kissed me. I shut my eyes, feeling the need to bite her lips, but finding no muscles in my face, listening to my mental commands. What did she do to me? I didn't want to enjoy it, but every single nerve in my body was flaring in excitement and pleasure as she kissed me. I felt my energy drain slowly, but forcefully from my body. Was she using her magic to force energy out of my body? It seemed like forever, but finally Diana pulled away from a kiss with a smile and a lick of her lips. She lowered me back onto the patio and chuckled. For some reason, even though nothing seemed to have changed, she looked stronger, powerful. It was like almost looking like a new Diana. Diana then stepped back off the railing, making me catch my breath in my throat. As she took another step away from me, she looked to be simply walking on night air. Diana smirked at my sudden surprise. May you never regret your choice, human. If you do, I'll happily come and take it away. With a flick of her hair, Diana turned and walked away into the night, fading into the darkness like a shadow. I watched her fade away before looking back to the man in my bed. Did I make the right choice? My heart gave a gentle thump, giving me my answer. I did, and I will never regret it for the long as I live. I walked back inside and gently crawled back into bed with the embrace of the safest arms I knew. I snuggled close to the warmth before closing my eyes. I was happy. The rest of the story can be almost passed over. With Diana gone, my life returned to normal with the school and my friends not remembering what happened, as if magic never happened, even appeared in my world. One thing was for certain, though, however. James loved me and I loved him just as much. We had promised our lives to each other and nothing was going to take that away from us, not even time itself. Our love was so
I will.
powerful.
I will be right back, but I assure you, you'll still be reading by the time I get back.
You want me to just keep reading?
Yeah, just keep reading. I'll be back. I'll probably be back by the time I need to read. So.
Alright. Our love was so powerful. It practically overwhelmed me with joy every time I found him holding me close every morning. To think, a demon ex-prince in love with a human like me, it was unthinkable, unbelievable. It was practically impossible, but it was true. The other boys decided to leave of their own accord. They knew that my future would only need James on my side, so they decided to start their own lives in the human world. James was heartbroken at first, but understood that he had to let his brothers grow like he did. Besides, James had someone new to care for now. His brothers didn't need him now that he was caring for me. I felt bad as well, for being closer to James than the others, but they reassured me that I was okay and that they would remain nearby should I ever need them, and I was happy for that. They made They made me promise, however, that I would love James as long as we lived. That promise was instantly given. But what of my future? Well, it was kind of made for me. Before I graduated, James decided to step into the light of the Anderson Toy Company, and with the help of his demon powers and leadership charisma, he managed to influence not only the entire board, but my father as well into letting him run for CEO. I was beyond shocked. How James managed to do all of that was beyond me. But when the vote was called, James had taken over the company as I was destined to have. He vowed to respect the wishes of the late CEO and help the company become an even grander company. For a demon, it was simple to make a company grand. My grandfather would have been proud to see how James helped it shine. With the CEO position filled, my father had no choice but to let me decide my future, which made me happy beyond compare. No longer would I have the future scaring me into a corner. I could choose my life on my own. That being said, I was still scared of where the future was going to take me. What did I want to do? Did I want to help James build the company? Did I want to venture off on my own? James reassured me that he would support me and help me through whatever I decided to do, promising that I came first before the company he had come to reign over. I was grateful and would never forget that promise. I was happy and nothing could shake me down from that happiness. One night, a good couple of years after the boys and I had met, I had a moment to myself, so I sat in my room and took in all in that happened as if it was all a dream. The demons, the devils, the magic. It was all surreal to believe. It almost frightened me to think that it could have been all a dream. But the warm feeling in my heart remained that it was all real. The demons, the magic, the love I had, all real. I smiled as I held my hands to my chest, relishing the feelings dancing within my soul.
Are you okay?
I looked up from my lap to see James standing at the doorway, cross-armed with a playfully raised eyebrow. I smiled and blushed a bit. Yeah, I'm okay. I was just remembering how we met and such.
Where are you now?
Yeah, and I wouldn't change anything. James smiled and walked over to me, gently taking my hands and kissing over the knuckles sweetly.
Come, I have a surprise for you.
I raised an eyebrow. A surprise? What the heck was he plotting? James simply chuckled and kissed my forehead.
I promise you'll love it.
Deciding to go along with it, I nodded and stood up. James gently took my arm under his and led me out of my bedroom. I stared in shock at the path of golden rose petals lining the floor, creating a pathway from my door. James led me down the golden rose path as if this was part of his plan. James, what is going on? James didn't answer. He continued to lead me down the stairs of the lobby, where the path wound into the dining room. I stared in shock as I saw the table set with candles and a large bouquet of golden roses decorating the middle. James, I feel sort of underdressed, you know.
There's nothing wrong with how you look. You're beautiful no matter what clothes you're in.
I couldn't help but let a red blush paint my face, making James chuckle once again. He led me to my seat, where I was greeted with the plate of shrimp pesto on the table. James!
Remember what that is?
Of course! That, sir, is a shrimp pesto dish. James laughed and smiled. I smiled back at him, feeling nostalgia run over my heart. Giddy happiness bubbled as I looked up at the man I had loved. You made it first when we first met, when you and your brothers were apologizing for getting blood in the lobby.
Oh, hell, it was more than just. Well, it was more than that we had to apologize for, but that was the gist of it, yes.
How could I forget? What's this all about? James gently bent forward and kissed my forehead sweetly, making me giggle slightly.
You are such a wonderful woman. I can't believe that I can love someone this much. You have changed my whole world, and now you have become my everything. I practically get scared waking up every morning, in case this is all just a blissful dream.
James. Before I could speak further, James gently placed his finger on my lips, hushing me before he caressed my cheek. I nuzzled in his hand, almost purring at the feel of the warmth against my cheek.
I love you, and I will never stop loving you. No matter what comes our way, I promise to be there for you. For as long as time keeps moving, I want to be yours forever.
Before I realized what was going on, James slowly got down on one knee beside me and took out a small black box. He lifted the top to reveal a beautiful ring with a purple gem crowned with gold and purple embellishments. I stared, my mind instantly freezing in surprise at the sight. I felt my eyes water at the immense feelings bursting inside my chest.
Will you, Clark Anderson, marry me?
I was speechless. I felt myself break and started to weep for joy. Was this happening? This had to be a dream. I mentally begged every single deity in the sky to never wake me up if that was the case. I fought my tears, trying to answer his question. I didn't want to leave him in the dark, and I didn't want him to be on the ground for long. Yes, yes, I will. I stood, crying and jumping in joy as James smiled, the biggest smile I'd ever seen on his face, and slid the ring onto my ring finger. As it finally ended up its upward journey at the crevice of my finger, James stood up and took me into his arms, kissing me and sealing my words. I had gained the heart of a demon, no, of a man I loved. I vowed to cherish him and love him for the remainder of my days and beyond. Could a demon love a human forever? I knew James would. And that was my happily ever after. End. James' proposal. T. We gotta stop here?
Continue onwards.
Alright. I actually seen the trailer, so that doesn't matter.
I always go through this final section anyway.
Alright.
Primarily because I fucking love the song.
I guess we just sit and chill then.
Yep. I'm down to about a third of my wine.
Shit, man. You really went through that thing.
Yeah. I have this song on one of my fucking playlists now. This game's music is fucking gorgeous.
It's held up
And
really
also,
well.
This credit scene is also going to be well for me drinking because, well, I've been drinking throughout the whole fucking recording so far.
Shit, man.
Oh yeah, I watched one at I've watched one of the fucking YouTubers who actually voiced one of the characters when it came to this game.
Oh.
I forgot one of the characters was actually voiced by a YouTuber. Also, do you know that the guy who voiced Andrew, Zach Aguilar?
Oh, really?
He voiced the character in Nier Replicant.
What the hell?
Yeah. I think he voiced the young protagonist.
What the hell? Wow.
And yeah, the person who sang this song, the credit song, also voiced the characters Michaela Laws.
Yeah, I think she was the creator.
Yeah, she is.
Like the head creator.
And the composition guy, Christopher Escalante.
Yeah?
All the fucking music is in a playlist from this game.
Whoa. Oh
Okay,
yeah,
I forgot this game had Kickstart backers.
yeah. I think it started from Kickstarter, didn't it?
Yeah. The fact they got fucking Zach Aguilar into this, it says a whole fucking lot in general.
Yeah.
This is 2015, so Jesus Christ, this game's actually aged very well.
Yeah, like it's a lot of things have held up still. Cause like Ren'Py definitely made it easier to like make visual novels, but
Ren'Py visual novel engine.
yeah, like Ren'Py did.
You can tell which visual novels are made with it,
Yeah.
but there's some what you can't tell are made with it whatsoever. I'm pretty sure Everlasting Summer is also made with Ren'Py.
I mean, it's technically not that hard, but it's like, it's it's a lot of work to make something actually quality with the engine.
Yeah, Everlasting Summer, this. John Cena's Sexy High School Adventure, that's a meme-worthy one. Or her TOEFL boyfriend was made with this as well, I believe.
Oh, her TOEFL boyfriend was fantastic.
Pigeon Dating Simulator. Okusan.
Okosen! Love that guy. Pudding.
Bob Dicks, Crab Nipples, and Richard's Pickles.
Please don't.
Please just
don't ask.
If you want to continue the series, you more than likely can, but you've got there's primarily new routes that you can explore.
I think this is enough. Like, I already did the Diana bad end.
Would the next thing be
You want to stop now?
Yeah, you can stop calling now.
Okay.